Hello, Paul.
Martin, hello.
We're back with the Meat Puppets Series 2, and I am in my loft still. Where are you?
Yeah, I'm still in my spare bedroom. Lots of building work going on. Just had a worktop delivered, so that was my weekend.
Okay, so we've been off for about 6 months, and we're going to have a catch-up with all the AI news today and what's been going on with us as we try to set up a notionally digital business.
Yes.
Yeah, so without further ado, we're going to play the intro. The intro might be a new one. I haven't done a new one yet, or it might be the old one. So,
am I listening to the old one and pretending it's the new one?
Well, I haven't actually got either of them to play back. So,
all right, okay.
So I'm going to pretend to hit play now and something will play, and then we can come back and react to it. Right, here we go. Go.
After years of analog success,
lifelong media vets Martin and Paul
are entering the digital unknown.
The tech-naive duo will either adapt
or become obsolete.
Join these plucky, wisecracking founders
as they document the genuine struggles of using machine learning.
Will artificially intelligent guides rocket them to digital disruption? Stay tuned for the triumphant failures of two savvy dinosaurs striving to evolve on the Meat Puppets.
Wow, that was amazing.
Best intro I've ever heard, that.
Yeah, it might be the old one so good that we decided to keep it, or I hope you like the new one.
That's what editing's for, Martin, I believe.
It is indeed. So we've been mostly using generative AI, i.e. Using AI to generate text or music or video. And we're going to go over what's been happening recently in that world. And a lot has changed, but then also nothing has changed.
Minor quality improvements. There's lots of noise, though.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to have a listen to some of the latest music ones.
Now some of that is a major step forward. And actually, I'm being a bit wrong there.
And some of the video is a major step forward as well.
Yeah.
To be honest. So, you know,
did I say minor improvements? I meant major. That's what I meant.
Yeah, the opposite.
Yeah.
The opposite. And the theme running through it is, what is this stuff worth? If a computer's generated it, or if AI's generated it, is it worth anything to anybody? Does it have the same value as a human making it?
It's a good question.
Well, yeah, you've done this a lot in music, and one of our friends says this a lot. It's not really about the music, or it's not really about the film. It's about the story behind it, the people behind it, and whether or not with AI it has that kind of resonance. I was going to kick off with a story, a delightfully middle-class story.
Go on.
So I was outside the gym waiting to pick up my wife from yoga.
It's already very middle-class.
I know, but, you know, you got to embrace these things. And a friend of mine's in Brazil filming Formula E. He's a cameraman, runs a camera business, a traditional camera business. He's also a big fan of John Cooper Clarke. For those who don't know, John Cooper Clarke is a Salford-based beat poet, artist. Yeah. Let's say artist. He sent me a picture. He'd burnt his head in the sun. He's bald, he's got a shaved head, and he's ginger. And he'd been out in the sun filming all day, and he'd really burnt himself. And he kept on sending me stuff about John Cooper Clarke. So I thought, I'll jump onto ChatGPT and ask it to write me a poem about Steve, the camera op in Brazil, filming Formula E. We sometimes call him the King of Salford, and he likes John Cooper Clarke. Can you write me a poem, short poem, in the style of John Cooper Clarke about his experience? And it wrote this poem. Do I need to read it out?
Link in the description.
Link in the description. That's probably the best way to do it. But anyway, So it wrote this poem. I sent it to him, 2 minutes later? And he was like, oh, that's amazing. I'm going to have that framed up in the office below a picture of me with me burnt head. Then I told him that I hadn't written it. And suddenly he wasn't that enamoured with it. Now, nothing's changed about the poem.
No.
The words are the same. It still references the King of Salford, but I think the value in it is that he thought I'd written it. And that's kind of what we're going to discuss today.
It's a bit like the AI equivalent of picking up some flowers from the petrol station, isn't it?
It's like a microwave meal versus cooking one from scratch, isn't it? You know what I mean? I made you dinner. Ping! And it may be a tasty, nutritious meal. I mean, this is a Waitrose meal, you know.
Oh, okay.
I just thought I'd embrace the middle classness of what's happening today
That's going to be the theme, innit?
versus spending 4 hours in the kitchen making something.
And some flowers from the petrol station. Special treat.
Right, anyway, I'm going to go to a sting
Anyway,
now, Paul.
Sting.
And we'll get into some AI news. Here we go. Sting, sting. And good sting. Good sting.
Quality sting there.
So we're not going to cover the entirety of AI news over the past 6 months. We're going to go with what's just been happening recently. Now, we've talked about a guy called Matt Wolfe who does a very, very good YouTube channel. And he's recently launched a bloody podcast.
Must have been listening to us.
Did you take a listen?
No, I didn't.
All right, well,
I didn't.
It's called The Next Wave, and I think he's nicked the name from a great book called The Coming Wave by Mustafa Suleyman,
Yeah.
which is about the next wave of AI. But I had listened to it yesterday, and it's blatantly sponsored, so
Right.
it was a little bit disappointed. Sorry, Matt. Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah.
Yeah?
So we're starting with somebody else's podcast and then telling them not to listen to it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Brilliant.
That's why you come to the meat puppets.
I've listened to it, so you don't have to. Anyway, it's not great. That's not a great story to start with. So we're going to move on swiftly to the sag-aftra.
Yeah.
So we thought this was all done with, don't know if you remember last year, most of America's actors went on strike, notionally about protesting against the threat of AI,
Yeah.
but also about cash
Yeah.
they were getting for streaming services. Anyway, they all went back to work, but it seems like the saga is still going on. Basically, they've said, if you're going to use digital replicas of our voices, get our consent.
And our likeness as well.
Oh, yeah, and our likeness. Get our consent and pay for it.
Yeah.
Which, if I'm not wrong, Paul, is something you suggested on this very podcast
Yes.
maybe 7 months ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
It really seems quite simple, doesn't it? Yeah, I know a brainer. Are we moving? Should we move to the other one as well? Because it seems related.
Yeah, you know what, actually, yeah.
Right, Billie Eilish, Nicki Minaj, Stevie Wonder, and more musicians demand protection against AI. So,
Yeah.
similar things. I'll just read out a quick summary. So, the mentioned artists and other musicians are advocating for protection against the use of their voices and likeness in AI-generated music without their consent. They're concerned about the potential misuse of AI technology to create synthetic replicas of their voices and performances, which could undermine their artistic control and pose ethical and legal challenges.
So this
there
has
you
been
have it.
happening quite a bit, hasn't it? I mean,
Yes.
anyone who's been noticing there's AI versions of artists doing different songs.
It seems people are split. If you read the article, I believe it does mention a couple, Grimes being a highlight. They're kind of saying, go for it. We love it.
Yeah.
So, you know.
When you actually read the letter, so they did an open letter, there seems to be a little contradiction to me. I'm just going to read the two first paragraphs. We, the
Go on.
undersigned members of the artist and songwriting communities, call on AI developers, technology companies, platforms, and digital music services to cease the use of artificial intelligence to infringe upon and devalue the rights of human artists. Right, that's paragraph 1. Right. Paragraph 2. Make no mistake. We believe that, when used responsibly, AI has enormous potential to advance human creativity in bold and in a manner that enables the development and growth of new and exciting experiences for music fans everywhere.
So they don't know what they're saying, do they?
No AI, don't want AI. AI is amazing. We can be so creative.
Yeah.
It's just really confusing.
They want control.
I'm just going to read just a little bit from the third paragraph. Unfortunately, some platforms and developers are employing AI to sabotage creativity and undermine artists, songwriters, musicians, and rights holders. Yeah, it's kind of like AI's all right in our hands.
I mean, it is kind of like the actors thing. I mean, I do think, I don't know how it fits legally, but if you're using the model of someone's voice, it is their performance, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the royalties that are contained within recordings. There's a performance royalty, so that should stand, even if it's new words, if you see what I mean.
I do see what you're saying. I think it's a really grey area, I think. Because if you study an artist enough, or if you like an artist enough, I've said this before, you'll inevitably start to try and mimic their performance because that's what you think is good.
Yeah.
And so if I'm not saying I'm going to go and sing a song like Tay-Tay. I don't think I'll ever sound like Tay. By Tay-Tay, I mean Taylor Swift. But if I was a Tay-Tay fan and wanted to start my musical career, that is probably where I'd start, to try and emulate my heroes. And if a human does it, it's all right. But if a computer does it, it's not.
There is actually, it's kind of related. It's not quite the same, but James Hype, who's quite possibly the biggest DJ in the world at the moment. He did just sign a huge residency in LA or something for some astronomical amount of money.
Yeah.
But his last record that was released a couple of weeks back, James Hype kind of puts everything that he's doing online. He's got a really large social media following. Arguably, it's what made him huge.
Yeah.
But he did the ins and outs of his latest track, and it uses Jodeci, which was a big R&B tune in the late 90s, early 90s. I can't remember exactly when. He uses a vocal from there. However, it's not that. What he actually does is he does a remix of that song,
right?
And he uploads the a cappella to an AI voice site and then downloads somebody else singing it, an AI-generated voice. So it's an AI cover. And he just says rather quickly that he said, I wanted to remix this track. I'm paraphrasing right now. And he says, but I haven't got Jodeci's number. You know what I mean? And he has like 4 hours in a hotel room. Now, I'm pretty sure if James Hype or got his manager or someone and went to Jodeci, I'm going to do a remix of your track, they'd be up for it because he's massive. And the track went to Beatport #1 within a couple of hours and all that, you know what I mean? And he'll be playing it all over the world, So I'm sure they would agree. But it was one of them. He does his tracks on his laptop in his hotel room. He says he did this one in 4 hours,
So does that go to what we're talking about, though, Paul? The fact that he shared his story of creating this track makes it all right in his fans' eyes. Because imagine that he'd done it, and then it came out. Oh, this guy is a fake. He's used AI to do this voice.
Yeah.
And I suppose there's a legal thing there as well. It's to get around having to get permission to use the master, isn't it? It's a technical thing for people who don't know.
Yeah, it's a technical thing. Also, permission of the voice, using the master recording, etc., etc. So he's done a cover version because he does say I could do this by phoning a singer, etc., etc. But he's a busy man. He often flies between gigs on nights, so he used the AI. I think there's a thing going on with DJs though. They are the story, and that does make it okay. That does add that level of cool. You know what I mean? Like you were saying, I think it's very much that. It's like, but actually, the conversation underneath that video is quite interesting because it's in and around this.
Yeah, it's not even a money thing for him, is it?
No.
I mean, because obviously it costs to get a singer in to come and record it, and it takes time.
Yeah,
and it's an inconvenience.
Yeah, it's that. It's exactly that. He can afford it.
Now, so going further down the rabbit hole,
and
I've seen this on some sites, is that if the voice model that he used to do the cover version, are you following, was trained on a real voice,
yeah,
and then that voice gets royalties or gets paid for the use of his voice or her voice.
Sure how that works. I think it's a subscription site. I can't remember. Don't know.
Yeah,
You know
so,
what I mean?
well, the biggest one that we've all used, 11 Labs.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're paying now. You can
Yeah.
sign up as a professional artist, upload your voice, and if people use it, you get a proportion. I don't know what the split is, whether it's like a Spotify thing. You know, number of times people have used your voice.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that is definitely happening.
Yeah.
I
think I've talked about that as well in the past. I see
Yeah.
that as a totally good thing. I mean, you could be concurrently working on 100 projects around the world at one time.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
So I think it is. I think you are right. It is about the story behind James Hype
Yeah.
that you value it. And maybe even the fact that he's done it in a hotel room in between gigs. I mean, this guy's so talented, it just takes him 4 hours.
Yeah.
And maybe it only takes him 4 hours because he's not encumbered by the old technology that just takes time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not creative time, is it?
No. I mean, he's so hot right now. I think he can pretty much do anything. And there's like a double edge to it because the fact that he's putting it out online and all gets people excited anyway. You know what I mean? He can pretty much fart in a bathtub and it'll be an amazing track. Oh, it's good. It is a good track. I don't want to disparage him. I'm a fan, you know.
I'm just seeing if he's on this list, if he's signed this letter. No, he's not signed this letter, surprisingly. I'm just going to read, to end this, I'm just going to read the last 2 paragraphs.
Okay, yeah, go on.
Again, in bold. It's so inflammatory, this. It does feel like a little bit of outrage.
Yeah, you're doing the Star Wars thing, doing the British villain voice. So keep on with that. It's good.
Okay, here we go. This assault on human creativity must be stopped. We must protect against the predatory use of AI to steal professional artists' voices and likenesses, violate creators' rights, and destroy the music ecosystem. And then all in bold, in a box. So this is probably the most important bit. You know, if you're going to read anything, read this bit. We call on all AI developers, technology companies, platforms, and digital music services to pledge that they will not develop or deploy AI music generation technology, content or tools that undermine or replace the human artistry of songwriters and artists or deny us fair compensation for our work. Which is fine.
Yeah, it's fine. I can also hear all the AI developers laughing their heads off.
I know, it's just it's the language of it. I mean, it does feel really entitled. It reminds me of, again, showing me age, when Lars Ulrich kicked off about people sharing Metallica's music.
Yeah.
And went absolutely crazy. So it's a little bit of history repeating. Right, I don't know where to go from here.
What else is in the news?
Well, I was going to connect it to...
Yeah.
Right, I'm going to jump straight in this. We're going to demo some audio creation tools, some music creation tools, flying in the face of Billie Eilish, Nicki Minaj, Stevie Wonder, and more musicians.
It's not their voices, though, is it?
No, it's not their voices. It's somebody's voice.
Yeah.
Maybe, or maybe it's an imagined voice. So anyway, there's this app/website/AI service called Suno. So that's suno.ai, link in the description. I remember we were meant to say that all the time, aren't we? Link in the description.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, link in the description. Yeah. So they released the latest version of their model, Suno. And I heard this on the news, and I was actually on my way to a meeting to go and meet you on the train when I spotted this Suno announcement. So on my phone, I jumped onto suno.ai. We're not sponsored by them or have any affiliation with them whatsoever. Genuine story. And I had 5 minutes left on the train. And I thought, okay. And basically, you have the opportunity to like write a text prompt for a tune. So you could go, create me a dance song about, I don't know, chickens. And it'll jump onto itself in the background. It'll jump onto ChatGPT, write some lyrics, bring them back, and then create a tune for you. Or you have the other option where you can put in your own lyrics. And there's a bit of a running joke in our family about some terrible, terrible lyrics I wrote when I was about 8 years old. And they kind of stuck in my brain. And at the time, I am now. At the time, I was a huge heavy metal fan.
Yeah.
Bought into the whole corporate rock thing, and especially Iron Maiden. So I had these terrible, terrible lyrics. So I thought, I'm going to put those lyrics in. And I literally just went, heavy metal is the prompts. So 2 words, heavy metal, and then my terrible lyrics. Do you want to have a listen to what was created?
Can't wait.
Here we go.
Amazing. Revenge is sweet.
So, I admit I can't believe I put that out in public, but there you go. But it's just going back to what we were talking about before in that letter. Right, as my 8-year-old self, all I had was I had a nylon string sort of 3/4 size guitar from Argos.
Yeah.
Right, and in my head, that's what that song sounded like.
Right, yeah.
What I was able to create was nothing anywhere near that.
Yeah. Was it an acoustic?
It was an acoustic. It was an acoustic, but in my head, when you strummed it, it sounded like metal.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that there was such thing as a distortion pedal back then. But all I kept on thinking was, if my 8-year-olds had access to something like that,
Yeah.
I don't know whether that song's worth anything. For me, it makes me smile. Completely, and I imagine it makes you smile for very different reasons.
Well, it hits all. In all honesty, it hits all the right things, doesn't it? What I think we've proven that most metal is written by 8-year-olds.
Yeah. And long may it stay the same, Paul.
Yes.
We both got sound engineer backgrounds. The sounds were right.
Oh yeah.
The production was right.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
I don't know whose voice was singing my lyrics, but apparently if I pay a subscription to Suno, I now own that and can do what I want
the
with it.
delivery was right. You know what I mean? The energy was right. Everything's right.
Yeah, I'd like to think it's the way the lyrics were written. It is perfectly phrased and contained all the emotion that you need to generate this song. And that is where indeed the creativity lies.
With your gun held high.
With my gun held high.
You keep your gun to yourself, man.
So I'd got about halfway to my meeting by the time I'd created this. And at the time, my mind blown. I was like, wow, that is amazing. So because I knew I was coming to meet you and one of our mutual friends, who are more, let's say, into the dance music world, I just thought, you know what? They're not going to be impressed with this. So I thought, right, I'm going to generate a house music version. So I took the same lyrics and just wrote house music and click go.
I saw you watching me with your gun held high. You tensed to pull the trigger, you did and I have died. And now let my make a way up in the sky. I have no wings but around the clouds I fly. I'm coming back for you. Revenge is sweet. I'm coming back for you. For your dead me. I'm coming back for you. Oh, revenge is sweet. I'm coming back, back, back for you. No weapons will I need to make you cry. Your days will die for me to be satisfied. Gonna hold your children.
So, go on. What are your thoughts?
It's good. It's not as good as a metal one.
Yeah. I think so. And it's probably something to do with the training.
Yeah.
But again, for me, not a house music aficionado or EDM aficionado. It's passable for me.
Yeah. It feels a bit old, but again, you know what I mean? I have heard worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking that maybe we're assessing these in the wrong criteria, assessing it against what exists rather than its own thing. And the pure sense of joy I got out of playing with this, even just sharing it with like people that'll know or ridicule me for playing it, just found it really funny. And I was just trying to think of, how this might, does it cheapen the music? Because, I can probably throw out 100 tunes in an hour.
If it's good, it's good.
Yeah. But does the story behind it matter? If I hadn't told you about my 8-year-old lyrics and gone, I just asked it to create a heavy metal song, would you have liked it as much?
Yeah, this is an interesting argument. I can prattle on about this for a long time. Let me try and do a short version.
Right,
I spend a lot of time on the production forums on the internet. A lot of time on
music production forums.
Music production forums, yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of people do what I would say is the bare minimum for music, which is create the track, create a cover, very short synopsis. Sometimes it's like 4 or 5 words, and put the music out. And I sat wondering why it doesn't do very well. And part of that, I think, is the story. Always kind of use punk as a thing because it's the production values of punk were like rip it up. And some would have said, based on the music that existed at the time, which it was kicking against, which was like your really expensive prog rock production, takes 6 months to do,
very
that kind
familiar,
of thing.
very familiar.
Yeah. That punk was crap.
Yeah.
But the story of punk was everything about it, and it became huge because of that, if you see what I mean. And so
it wasn't about the music, so to speak. It's what the music represented.
Yeah.
The thought behind it.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of that. As in like the story gives you context for the music. It frames it for you and how you should be listening to it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, having said that, dance music can be quite faceless because we talked about James Hype before. The DJs end up doing that job for you.
Yeah, they're almost like curating.
Yeah,
the music, creating the mystique behind the music.
Yeah, exactly. So it's an interesting thing. It does bring something to mind though, which I did want to chat about a bit earlier about the AI music. We're talking about protections.
Yeah.
You know what nobody's talking about? Protections for your AI artist.
Wait there, let me wrap my head around that, Paul.
Well, you're a creator of an AI artist, right?
Okay.
And an AI voice model. You might not want...
So let's make this real. So let's say I've created Rockin' Dave Max Out Shotgun.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Who's just got this amazing growly voice, better than James Hetfield. Sorry for anyone who doesn't know anything about Metallica. Yeah. Anyway, best rock vocalist ever, and I've created him, and he's mine. Right.
Yeah.
So Dave, let's just call him Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right,
now I want Dave to do a drill record.
No. What?
You know what I mean? Or I want Dave to voice an adult movie, shall we say?
Right. Okay. So therefore, Dave's image has now been sullied.
Yes.
Okay, I get you. So you're talking about creative restrictions on the use of a voice.
Yeah, I am.
Even though the voice has never been based on a human. That's a bigger argument. Maybe it was.
Yeah.
in the initial training, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But it's been synthesized. I don't know, Paul. I mean,
interesting though. I think you know what I mean. We might see that soon.
Yeah, it's like protecting a brand, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So, just carried on Suno. So we were around at a mate's house at the weekend, and it was the Grand National just gone.
Right. Yeah.
It was a Grand National, and I think a horse called Maximus won. And one of our friends said, "You know what? So you could just generate a song about the winning horse Maximus and put it out on socials in the next 2 minutes, couldn't you?"
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? You could. And I thought, you know what? This is a great tool for expressing yourself in a different way.
Yeah.
You know, so what's open to you now? Writing some meme about it, maybe, quickly.
Yeah.
There's no way you're generating a video about it quickly unless you rip something off the news.
Yeah.
You know.
Ooh,
but
I was just thinking about the TV producers. They should be all over it. You know, like when you watch the FA Cup final, there's a guy sat waiting to engrave the cup.
Yeah,
they always show a picture, don't they? And it's like,
and
there he is. He's writing the name on the cup. The TV producers could have a song for a what do you call it? A montage ready just like that.
That's an amazing idea, because I know this because obviously we used to run a TV company.
Yeah.
But you know, they are constantly editing the end montage during the match.
Yeah.
Waiting to put in the final stuff. And it's always a race to get it out before the end credits go.
Yeah.
And you know, you'll have chosen a tune beforehand.
Yeah.
But just imagine, I think there's great potential for it. I'm not quite sure where it'll end up.
But it could well change, you know.
Yeah.
It could change.
We're going right round the hours. It's probably spent far too long on Suno AI.
Yep.
But you can go and try that now. And I should say, you can probably generate about 10 songs a day at the moment for free.
Yeah.
So there's no subscription. You just go on and do it. So anyway, that's Suno AI. Suno AI. There was a rival to Suno called UDIO, which came out about a couple of weeks after. So I think this came out last Friday, or it might have been even this week. UDIO is competing to be the big one. There's backed by, here you go, different people again. So this is backed by will.i.am, is one of the investors in UDIO. And I suppose the success of it will depend on how people end up using it. And I suppose if you think about it, it gives people without any musical ability the ability to express themselves through music.
Yeah.
That's my take home for it. And I don't think that's a bad thing.
It's not been in the past, have it? How many musical genres have we got from exactly that scenario?
Yeah, hip hop.
Yeah.
I mean,
punk,
you know.
Punk, arguably one of them.
Yeah.
Very little talent needed.
Well,
sorry,
talent.
People. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But traditional musical talent, you didn't need to be a virtuoso on the guitar.
I tell you what, let's change it to craft.
Craft, okay. A couple of chords.
Yeah, you don't need to spend 10,000 hours learning the guitar, is what you're saying. You know, you can just get straight to it and make your point.
You can put those 10,000 hours could be your life experience, couldn't they?
Yeah, without going over old arguments. Yeah. I think these things will end up being an art form, and maybe the art form is how you write the prompts. I don't know. And I think you'll get different platforms connected to different genres depending on the performance of the model. Or to me, it's just like, again, it's recreating stuff that we've already got. I'd love it to spit out something I've never heard before.
Yeah.
And just go, what is that? I think it's really exciting. I think the music industry is probably terrified.
The music industry seems to have spent the last 20 years being terrified of the internet. Technology.
No, stop it! Stop it! You just need a ukulele and a lovely voice. That's all you need. Yeah. Ukulele, lovely voice. Anything other than that is the devil.
Yeah.
So, another bit of news. So Spotify, correct me if I'm wrong here, Paul, you'll probably know more than me, but I believe they've got a complete ban on you releasing AI-generated songs.
Yeah, apparently so.
I bet they didn't ban James Hype.
Anyway. You are just going to check that. I'm pretty sure that's on there. Yeah, I know it is, actually.
Yeah. So, anyway, that's another conversation. And this is probably because I imagine everyone who signed that letter threatened to pull their music from Spotify if they continue to do it.
Yeah.
This is pure speculation, zero research.
Yeah.
Pure speculation.
No, it's on
But I
there.
did notice,
Just so you know, I've just
you what? Sorry, Paul.
confirmed. It is on there.
James
just
Hype
so you
is
know.
on there.
Yeah.
Okay, so partial use of AI, cool.
Yeah.
Total use of AI,
Yeah.
Anyway, they've released a personalized AI playlist. So this is like stepping back a level. So they're happy with AI when you can just basically have AI curate your tracks for you.
Yeah. I mean, Spotify have been all about that curation for a long time, haven't they?
So how does this differ to just like a personal like algorithm that we've had around for years? Like the way your Facebook feed works, or the way your Instagram feed works, or the way your Netflix front page works.
Yeah. Now, this could actually be more about internal cost saving, I think.
Right.
Because I don't know if you know this, but there are pretty much in each territory, I don't know how many, I'm going to say 10.
Right. Let's say that.
Playlist curators. And so the big playlists in each territory are human created tastemakers, basically. One of the big games with Spotify is to get on one of those lists. It's a bit like the old gatekeeper scenario with radio.
Yeah. Understood. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that this is they're looking at that and going, maybe AI can replace all those. Let's see what the public think.
So they bill it as this feature aims to enhance the music discovery experience for users by leveraging AI algorithms to create customized playlists tailored to individual preferences. Yeah. Which kind of makes sense. It's kind of keeping you in your own bubble, though, in a weird way.
Yeah.
And there is another part of this that just thinks, I think Spotify are just looking for a reason to put AI in the headline of a news story.
Yeah, because if you're a tech company and you're not saying AI, you're dead in the water.
Yeah. So this isn't using AI to create music, but this is using. Oh, there is an issue here because then this is using AI to dictate who gets plays.
It'll just be another game, though. If you like the artists have been trying to play the algorithm game, to get in front of people, they'll just be trying to play the AI game.
Yeah. So what we're saying is that it's not much different, really. So I'm going to move away from music now, and we're going to come on to video.
Video.
And video behemoth Adobe.
Yep.
Those who aren't familiar, Adobe do a suite of tools for manipulating video, from editing and effects, and they also do Photoshop and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, very expensive tools.
Now, I remember way back when in Series 1, we were talking about these big behemoths that better get round to adopting AI into their products, or they're going to lose their user base. And Adobe seem to have been the ones who've really gone for this. Now, they have their own model called Firefly for generating images.
Yep.
So if you ever use...
We did do a small thing in the last series on Firefly, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Now, so this has come off, and Adobe have just
plug, go back and have a listen.
Yeah, go back and have a listen.
See what I did there.
There's a great episode. Just take yourself back through, get yourself caught up.
Yeah. Not going to tell you which episode, one, because I can't remember, and I want you to listen to them all.
Yeah. Adobe, it seems, are going massively now into video generation. It's kind of a response to, I don't know if people missed it, but OpenAI announced a model called Sora.
Yeah.
And the thing about Sora compared to all the other video models is that you could generate up to a minute's worth of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's kind of solved, let's just keep it simple. It's solved, or it seems to have solved, a lot of the issues that, if you like, let's say old video AI had.
Pretty incredible, actually. Link in the description.
But anyway, without getting too distracted, Adobe have also announced that later this year, so not very long, within the editing program, you're going to be able just to create stuff that you need. And when I say stuff, say you've filmed a shot and it's just a few frames short of how long you need it to fill it where you want it. you can just extend it with AI. Yeah. So you can go, oh, can you just stick another couple of, can you generate a couple of seconds on the end of that shot?
Which is
and it will
amazing.
analyze the footage beforehand and continue the shot.
Yeah.
Or say like, oh, you know what? This happens a lot in commercials and in telly, especially if you're making for the BBC. Oh, there's that watch that they're wearing. It's too obviously a particular brand.
Yeah.
If their demo is to be believed, you don't even have to draw around it. You just click on it and then type, replace with generic digital James Bond watch. Oh no, another brand there. Sorry. Replace with generic digital watch, and it will replace the shot in the video. And this might not mean much to a lot of other people, but that's a really expensive process to do in a traditional way.
Yeah, and time consuming as well.
And it's people's entire jobs is to draw around stuff in videos, in film, and get rid of it.
Yeah.
That's people's entire jobs. And that's just going to be available to people natively inside Adobe. But, I've not been a fan of them for most of my life. But in a move that really surprises me, they're also showing in their demos that you can choose any third-party model. So the big players in this world are Runway, Sora, and Pika Labs for generating video. Links in the description. But you can choose it to generate it with Firefly, or you can choose to generate it with Sora or Runway. And I suppose you'll end up having models that are fine-tuned at creating a certain kind of aesthetic, a certain sort of look. And the fact that they've decided to embrace that third-party world, I think it's really brave of them.
Yeah.
I bet it'll be at extra cost. But I bet you'll be able to use the native Adobe one within your subscription, but you'll have to pay a surcharge for Sora or something.
Yeah, it'll be, yeah.
Is my guess.
You do pay a premium for the Adobe products compared to everything else, though.
Yes. But having all those tools available inside an environment that video editors are familiar with, that feels like a game changer to me. And is going to just boost people's productivity. There's another demo they show. I'm not quite sure how this is going to work, but say you've missed a shot. So say you're filming someone in a car and you need to cut up their dialogue, what they're saying.
Yeah.
And you haven't got a shot out of the windscreen. You could easily just generate a bit of B-roll, a cutaway, over the top of it, and it'll analyze the video either side and generate a shot that plausibly could have been the front of the car.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that they've took this angle, as in they seem to be intent on, because it doesn't really affect the craft of editing, if you get what I mean.
No, it just means you don't have to go and refilm that shot or pay a roto artist.
Yeah, they're kind of taking that angle, aren't they, Adobe, leaving the creative part in people's hands.
So
to a certain degree, you know what I mean?
We could call that, Paul.
Yeah.
We could call that the James Hype angle.
Ah, okay, yeah.
So instead of going and getting a session musician and recording that vocal so you don't have to pay for the master, just use AI to do it.
Yeah.
So instead of getting the crew to go out and refilm it or getting the roto artist to paint it out, just get AI to do it.
Yeah. There's a common phrase which is going to become even more relevant now, I think. Fix it in post.
Go get AI to fix it in post.
Yeah, AI fix that in post.
Yeah, and soon you'll just be able to say that.
Yeah.
I don't like that watch. Change it. No, another watch. Try another one. James Bond watch. I want a James Bond watch.
Yeah.
Do it again. Sorry.
We'll have cameramen pointing cameras at the roof and lights in wrong directions and all that. Oh, just fix it in post.
This reminds me of a fantastic story. Editor story. It's a bit insular. It's a bit insular, this.
Go on.
So I probably heard this secondhand and I'm probably paraphrasing it, but don't let the truth get in the way of a good story.
Never.
See what I did there, Paul? I related it to story.
Yeah.
So I was sat in an edit suite and I'm going to pretend this is me. Let's say it's me, right? And I was editing away And they'd sent the camera team out to go and get exterior of this house because we didn't have an exterior shot of the house that this scene was in. Yep. And so the crew went out, filmed the exterior of this house, came back, and we got the rushes in. That's the video clips into the edit suite. And the producer looks at the crew and goes, "Oh, they're filmed on the wrong side of the road. It's the wrong house. The house is on the other side of the road." And then asked me if I could just flip the shot.
Love it.
Can't you just flip the shot so we can see the other side of the road? And I was like, no, it's not, no.
The audio one of them is, what happens if you reverse it twice?
Yeah, reverse it twice. I love it. Perfect. But the weird thing is that producer request might not be so ridiculous in a couple of months.
I know, right?
Yeah? Can you just flip around and get the other side?
Yeah.
You know? But I think it's going to, it's really going to help. I hate to use this word, but productivity, how quickly you're going to be able to realize your idea.
Yeah.
And I hate to use this word, in a professional way, whatever that means.
Yeah. How much abuse can it take is the main question.
Yeah. I suppose you're right. You're right. So, which leads me nicely on to a real world story. So this is a card game developer. So real world cards, not digital cards, as far as I know. Yeah. So they paid an AI artist $90,000 to generate the art for their cards because nobody came close to the quality he delivers.
Yeah.
And just to make this more effective, essentially they paid him $15,000 a month to design the digital art that's going to be printed on these cards.
Yeah.
He spent an average of 2 days a month.
Got that.
Making the art. So by my reckoning, that's $7,500 a day. I think that's pretty amazing. I mean, this guy must be totally chuffed.
Yeah.
And it kind of lays weight to that phrase, you won't be replaced by AI. You'll be replaced by somebody using AI.
Yeah, yeah.
And it makes me think of another thing, which I think is a weird ingrained human trait, and I don't know if it's just a British thing, is that the value of your work links to the amount of time it took you.
That might be a British thing. That the Apple logo springs to mind. When Steve Jobs redesigned the Apple logo, they used to have that really colourful apple, didn't they?
Yeah.
And then they went to that sort of monochrome apple.
Yeah.
I think that I can't remember any of the names. It's probably worth looking up. But the graphic designer, I think Steve Jobs was. It's in his book. He was heartfelt. His heart was set on this graphic designer, and I can't remember the numbers. I'm going to say $1 million. It was
that sounds like Steve Jobs.
Yeah, for the Apple redesign logo, and you know how it is when you go with graphic designers and you get this portfolio back and all these explanations and everything and blah blah blah. And I think they did it over a coffee, and he had one iteration of the logo on a sheet of paper and was kind of like, "There it is." And Steve Jobs loved it. He absolutely loved it. It was the story is as powerful as everything else. You know what I mean?
Well,
really
and you can argue that it's worked, hasn't it?
Yeah, he kind of just coloured it in. Do you know what I mean? I wonder if he did it just before the meeting.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's about a shift in mindset, because I find that hard to get out of. Not linking value to time spent or work done.
Yeah.
I mean, they're obviously happy with their cards that they've got.
Yeah.
They say it's cheaper and quicker than the other way they've done it. And I suppose whoa, Paul, hang on. We've just broken the Venn diagram. The Venn diagram that you cannot break of the service industry. Good, fast, cheap.
Yeah.
No, it's not cheap.
No, it's not cheap.
It's not cheap. We haven't broken it. Yeah. So
no. You said no. Hang on. It might have been cheaper for you just going 90 grand is a lot of money, but you don't know what they were paying before.
This is true.
Got a feeling you might be onto something there. You know.
Yeah.
Well, bringing it back round to James Hype with his 4-hour track that's at #1 everywhere in all the dance charts. There you go.
Yeah. So, if you say how good it is by its popularity, okay, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Fast, 4 hours for a track.
Yeah.
Feels pretty fast.
Yeah. Cheap from the vocal recording perspective.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, it's broken.
Yeah.
Good, fast, cheap. Yes, you can have all three. Do you hear that, potential clients out there?
Yeah.
Good, fast, cheap is possible now. Wow.
That's what we should call this episode.
Yeah, good, fast. Mimic puppets. Good, fast, and cheap. Yeah.
And edit this out. That's good social media. That good, fast, cheap is now possible.
Good, fast, cheap is now possible. And that kind of brings us to the end of our news, Paul.
All right. Good.
That was loads of news, which leaves us precisely 6 minutes to kind of wrap up. So you know what? Shall we just ease into this one and just do the news?
Yeah.
And then we can talk about what we've been doing at Flux and Warehouse City Sounds.
Yes.
Link in the description.
Yes.
And another episode, which will hopefully be next week.
Yep. Let's do that.
So I'm just going to hit a sting because that's what you're meant to do. Sting.
Oh, I hit my microphone instead.
I pressed my OBS button. Pressing sting.
Seamless as always.
I played it, but due to the noise cancellation of Squadcast, I don't think you heard it.
No, didn't hear it.
No, so I'll have to drop that in the edit. Oh, Squadcast, what you doing?
I know, yeah.
Anyway.
Nobody's going to believe a single word when we say we used to be media professionals.
I know. Well, that's a long time ago, Paul.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to wrap up this episode, we were talking about story at the beginning, and we're talking about the story behind things. I suppose it's kind of why we bothered to do this podcast in the first place, isn't it?
It is.
To try and connect with an audience. On reflection, I'd say the story probably does matter more than the product itself.
I think so, yeah. And, you know, talking about all these things, there is no bigger story than AI at the moment.
Oh, Paul!
Yes!
That brings us perfectly round to the end of this episode.
Yeah.
All links will be in the description below. I might end up putting some posts on LinkedIn again. Not sure. But you can get in touch with us there if you have got any thoughts or anything. And hopefully come back next week when we'll tell you what we've been up to. All right.
Yep. We'll see you next week.
Nice one, Paul. Managed to do it before your internet got cut off this morning.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Which is a win. Right.
Yes.
See you, Paul.
All right. See you, mate. Ta-ra. Bye. Bye.
Not too bad, I don't think. Oh, you're gone. Or is my internet gone? Am I talking to myself?